Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
The hell I'm not. I'm Pete Wright. Wait, what?
Today we're talking about Minute 58, which begins with Steve giving Peggy orders and ends with Hydra's prison cells. Back on the show today, we have Michael Gravagno, host of the podcasts The Superhero Show and Movie of the Year. Welcome back, Mike.
Thank you for having me back yet again.
Are you excited for the glowing beam machines in this minute? Finally?
I love a glowing beam machine.
Yeah. I thought so.
Not to jump ahead, but they do look beautiful. Do you know what trips me out the most in that part? Is there's a forklift.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did they have that technology back then? I'm fine with the glowing blue laser, whatever they do. But the forklift throws me off.
It's powered by a glowing beam machine, though. Like, that's what you need to know.
Okay, now I buy it.
It's smart. It's smart tech.
That tracks.
I love that it's the forklift, though, that really throws you.
That really throws
It's like, whoa.
Right.
Hold on, I don't buy any of this anymore. What's happening in this movie?
You've gone
realism.
too far, Marvel.
Well, now I have to look. When did forklift,
Right?
when did they come into being? Forklifts, the history of the forklift, middle 19th century through early 20th century saw developments that led to today's modern forklifts. 1906, Pennsylvania Railroad introduced battery-powered platform trucks for moving luggage. It looks like the start of World War II. Yeah, they had forklift trucks in the war effort. Look at that.
I stand corrected.
And how?
Marvel's research does it again.
Movie by minute podcasts, my friends.
We've learned when it comes to the real stuff, they're pretty like, what was it, 2 days ago now, the smallpox scars, and so now forklifts.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the real history locked in.
You know, it's funny. I have a note for this minute. Again, we're ahead. We're not in the airplane still, but we're a little farther forward. But Daniel Simon, who is the lead vehicle designer, had this to say. He said, "We studied what was possible back then and took it just 10% further, not more. That's enough to make the Hydra people look really evil and ahead. We studied propulsion technology, materials, car design, color schemes, etc. It was a gearhead's dream to professionally research any kind of technical detail of this very innovative time period."
What? Question? How do you measure 10% further? Does anybody have a problem with that?
That was my question. I'm like, did someone come to him at one point and he looked at it? No, this is 11. Too far.
Yeah.
Take it back.
Like
every 5 years is 0.25%, and then you divide that by...
I want to see the algorithm that they used to figure that out. Okay, let's put this tank through the algorithm and see what comes out on the other side.
Right? Like when you see the soldiers and they have their new like glowing blue ammo belt around their shoulders and they're glowing. Is that still inside the 10% window?
Well, I get it's just like a super blowtorch. Super
I guess
flamethrower.
you're right. I guess you're right. It's all in the blowtorch.
If you take the blue out, it's fine. All right. Well, let's go back to the airplane. We're up in the skies with Steve as he's standing at the door of the plane under fire. Peggy is calling to him, and it's a great little moment. We were right in the middle of the minute as Peggy was saying, "You can't give me orders," and Steve has I don't know. It is not a line that's often called back to, but it is kind of one of my favorite lines in the film when he says to her, "The hell I can't. I'm a captain."
It's Steve. This is why I love Steve. And people say Captain America is a boring character. And that's somebody who's like, I think, seen a picture of him, right? Like, I don't think the same people were like, "Oh, Superman's boring." It's like, read the comics or watch for Cap, watch the movies. He says that knowing how absurd what he's about to do is. Like, that's somebody who I feel it's wry. He knows he's only been training for like 3 weeks and then got super soldiered and then has been doing USO shows. Like, I hear all of that in that line. Like, he's like, "Oh, okay."
And he gives us the wry smile. Like, he gives us the smile that Peggy should have given us a minute and a half ago.
Ooh, yes, she should have. Yeah, there it is.
There it is. You found it.
We finally got the smile.
We got it. We just didn't get it from who we thought we were going to get it from.
Well, now we needed her to give a wry smile back. Like, I finally got him to do exactly what I wanted this whole time.
And you know what? All we get from Peggy in this sequence is a very quick costume change, right? Somehow between the USO wardrobe tent and here, she's out of her military uniform and she's in like an ascot thing that she's wearing, a new kind of blousey ascot thing.
Her flying outfit.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, your flying clothes. And also she changed at maybe the slim possibility they do go to Lucerne. She was like, well, this is flying clothes / dinner wear.
Fondue wear, yes.
Fondue wear.
You can use the ascot to dab your cheeks.
I'm fond dining. Okay, well, we've ruined this minute.
Is that the goal? How can we ruin it as fast as possible?
How can we ruin a minute?
Exactly.
I think this is in the slow steps of them falling for each other. This is another moment where she could have quipped back or smiled, but she's just like, bombs are exploding there, bullets are whizzing by, and she's just hanging out the plane looking very concerned as he goes off. Even if this was her original mission, and he's doing what she wanted him to do, she is now too concerned for Steve.
Is that concern or is it awe that his like parachuting form is perfect? Like he is just a razor blade through the air.
Who's never learned how to parachute before?
Yeah. Super soldier.
That's all part of it.
Is she the first person to notice America's ass?
Hey, right there. That was the moment.
Yeah, from right here.
She looks up.
At altitude.
If there was a reason to have a person hanging out of an airplane door over a war zone as they're being fired upon, I suppose that would be the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever run to an airplane door as it's being fired upon to look out out at the land below?
I don't know. I think I just realized that's a phobia I didn't realize I had.
Didn't know I had.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I think if an airplane door was open, I think the other side of the plane is where I would be. Mm-hmm. I'm not one who's ready to go skydiving anytime soon.
I think you'd be great at it. I'd like to see you do that. And you can do it right after you have your weird wine fondue. I'd like you to record a bonus episode jumping out of plane.
That's probably the best time to do it. I'll probably, have some sort of a strange buzz or something going on. I'm like, well, now's the time to throw myself out of an airplane.
Perfect opportunity for one of those patented Andy Nelson bonus episodes.
All right. So Steve jumps out and his parachute opens. We learned that he does have a parachute. What did either of you have a thought as you saw this that, he is Captain America. He's just going to jump out of a plane. He doesn't even need a parachute before you saw the chute open. Was there that thought in your head?
Because the Winter Soldier one is so burned in my head. That's my favorite Marvel movie, and I watched it so many times that I was like, oh, I didn't remember. Is this where it first starts? And I was like, oh, no, he has a chute. That makes sense that he's not at that level yet.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know his strength.
Yeah. No, I'm right with you. I absolutely thought about it, though, because it's so easy to transpose that particular scene. Those are the two big jumps, right? It's Iron Man 2, where she doesn't really, but extra footage, I think, throws the helmet out. Or does she kiss? Which one does? I can't remember what is actually in the movie now, where she kisses the helmet, throws it out of the plane, and Tony has to dive for it. And then in Winter Soldier, when he jumps, no shoot.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, obviously Bruce Banner jumps out of the helicopter,
yeah,
and turns into
thrown out. And then later, Falcon does it. I think a clear callback to the Winter Soldier. Sam, I guess Captain America, right? Sam, Captain America, does the same thing, talking to his little protege in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show.
Right.
Well, any last thoughts about anything up in the air, or shall we head to the woods below?
Get to the woods. Get to the woods.
Into the woods.
Into the woods we go. We're down inside the factory. We don't get any exteriors. In the scripted, actually, we do cut to a few exteriors before we go inside, but not here. We just go straight in to the Hydra factory floor. What the hell are they doing? They have these giant round things that I guess what it seems to be. As we have Zola talking about the Valkyrie, we actually get him saying that. It seems like these must be like part of the engine. Like they're building these big wheel devices full of these Tesseract powered batteries, basically, and then putting them onto a giant rod. So there's a bunch of it. My sense is it's some form of an engine. Do either of you have any idea?
Well, when you pull back at at second 54 in this minute, you pull back and you see that the giant rods are going into what look like rocket tubes, like missile tubes. And I don't remember the engines on the Valkyrie having those fins on the back of them. You guys see what I'm looking at?
Yep.
I thought it was engines too, but as soon as you see where they're going, it feels like they're going into those missile tubes, especially the one right at the front of the lower right-hand corner. It definitely has fins. But it also doesn't look like one of the weird suicide missiles that we see later.
Yeah.
Well, it could be like a Tommy gun, the circular. It runs either like a pre-arc reactor, a proto-arc reactor, or a Tommy gun style ammo, because they know they shoot everything out of that. So it could be, use this disc until it's out of blue juice.
Right. It kind of it rotates like a bullet thing. That's what it looks like. It's like the cap gun thing, the little round cap gun with all the little things.
Yes.
So basically, these are the Tesseract cap gun arsenal, the artillery.
But 10% more than a cap gun.
10% more.
I just want to know what the missile casing is. Like, what are those fins for?
Your point about those fins really does make me think that in some capacity, maybe what they're actually building here are like Tesseract-powered bombs. But to your point, like what we see them flying, like those kamikaze bombs, they certainly don't look like those yet. So it does seem like it's something that we never see again, maybe.
Just showing how big Schmidt's plans were.
The infrastructure.
You don't even know how many things he's built.
Right.
That could come up in later movies.
And he wants 60% more.
Say just 60% more.
And that was my question. It's funny that it ties into this 10% thing, because it's like, how does Zola measure 60%?
Yeah.
Is it speed? Like, okay, we made 10 today, so 60% more?
Right.
Tomorrow?
Yeah. Or like, I need you to kill and exhaust and kill 60% more prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the measure?
Because so far you've killed none, and I'm pretty pissed about that.
I'm really upset. You're not burning through our prisoners fast enough.
I love this back and forth because, and I think throughout, I guess he's only around for a couple movies, but Arnim Zola is so much more human than the Red Skull. And first, because he's kind of preening, right? He's like, pretty impressed. The Valkyrie will be ready. And then he gets deflated because Red Skull's instantly like, I want 60% more. And then when he says, kill the prisoners, Zola looks pretty distraught by that. And he's a Nazi, but he's still like bummed out. He's like, oh, I got to kill the prisoners and work them to death. That's not cool. Buddy, what is the rest of your team doing right now around the world?
Yeah, it is a weird way that Zola's played, because this happens several times. I mean, and I guess I'm curious about the perspective shift with Zola over the course of the film, because he starts off like almost maniacally excited when they get the Tesseract, and he's just like, this will fuel all of my plans. And he's like, I'll be able to take over all of Germany or whatever, and Schmidt's like, no, we'll be able to take over the world. Like, they both seem like mustache twirling villains, like they are very excited about what they're going to do. And then from that point on, like he's not getting to be involved, and maybe it's this rift between the two. Maybe they were lovers and they had a quarrel. Maybe that's what it is. And now he's being cut out of things. Like, he didn't get to be involved in sending the spy to go kill Erskine, and stop the super soldier program. And now he didn't get to have any say in when Schmidt pulled out the cannon and blasted away the SS officers. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. How do you read the relationship between Zola and Schmidt?
I think there's two ways. One is that, like, before the Tesseract, maybe there were more partners, and they're both hunting this thing that could make their plans. And the minute Schmidt has the Tesseract, Zola realizes he was just another tool, that he is not more important than anybody else, and Schmidt will kill anybody, including him. And he's getting pushed out that way. The other way is Erskine was once on their team, and so maybe there is a tiered system towards villainy. Erskine was fully against his will, but Zola could have been like, dude, I just love science. I don't really care about people. But the minute he sees human cost, he's like, oh, that's what you meant? I think less into this than I thought I was. I just wanted to build crazy shit. I didn't want to necessarily see what it would do.
I think most of what both of you guys are talking about, I think you found in like late 90s era fan fiction news groups, like that this whole like shipping Zola and Schmidt. I delight out of that. I'm fully in support of it, by the way. But no, we've talked about this, that part of Zola's charm is that he's in it for the science and the toys. Like, look at all the amazing stuff that I built with this mad energy, and that when he comes face to face with the damage that it can do, he's shocked and it feels kind of dirty, but he still can't quite turn away.
Is that weird though to say, look at this laser gun I built? Oh wait, you actually used it on people? Like,
you just right in front of me, you just disintegrated that one guy right there? Yeah, that was a rough minute.
I think he'll use it on anybody, right? Like, I think it's that he's realizing Schmidt does not care about his own men or anybody at all involved. Like, and that started from the minute when they were first playing with it, the Tesseract, and he's like, I'm going to slowly do it, and Schmidt pushes him out of the way, and there's blue lasers go all around their science room to build that first battery.
Yep,
that's right. The disco science room.
And Zola at that point is like, oh, I thought I was working with a fellow scientist. I think this guy might be off his rocker.
Mad.
Yeah, a little kooky.
A little kooky.
He is, though. He's a funny sort of mini authoritarian, because at the end of that sequence, right, he's so distraught by his exchange with Schmidt that he really gives this administrative bozo the business. Like, the guy comes up for a signature. What if that signature was right important? Like, what if that was, we need to take shipment of new blue juice? Like, and what
if this is the order? Like, boost everything by 60%.
Yeah. This is the 60% order, and like, people are waiting.
It's so funny to me. One, just like the forklift, another thing, even though it's even more basic, I was like, were clipboards around in the 40s? It just feels newer than World War II, but it's so funny to imagine Hydra's soldiers having to do stuff like, here's inventory, boss, check it off, gotta go peel the potatoes, gotta keep the guys fed. Like, it's such a mundane action to sign or check off whatever it is on a clipboard with all this blowing goo.
You know what it is? He is the Timmy of Hydra.
Yes.
Nice work, Timmy. Look at me, Ma.
Look at my clipboard.
Oh, wow. We've gone some places with this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to see what they're doing here. I'm very curious to kind of continue the journey with this. And what I also like is the fact that this is really the first time we've seen what they've been doing with the weaponry. Like, we see these troopers walking around and they all have these crazy Tesseract powered backpacks that are glowing blue energy. I mean, we'd seen kind of some signs of that development, but from the time that we first saw that back in June 1943, like, this is the first time, November 1943, we're seeing like mass use of it. And so it's pretty interesting to see, and I'm excited to see kind of how that continues to develop, because we're going to get a lot of that in the coming minutes.
Yeah.
Well, and because in our very first week, we saw Johnston's first tease of use of lens flare. And this scene gives us that thing that causes me no end of joy, the madness of blue goo lens flare off of these soldiers' guns. I mean, every time the guy walks across the catwalk there, and it's just like a searing blue blade of light coming out of his backpack. And when in a few minutes, we're going to get a break where there's going to be so much lens flare, you might not even know what's going on in the scene.
It's because it's so powerful, it cannot be contained.
It cannot be contained in your puny cameras.
Well, there will be a lot more lens flare. You're right about that, Pete. I do enjoy the lens flare. I can't remember your position. I thought you didn't like the lens flare. I thought you said it was too much.
No, it's comic. It's too much. I do think it's too much in that sequence. It is way overwrought, and it feels like that. But that's the joy part of it. Like, it is absurdist lens flare theater. That's what it is. It's lens flare theater.
Doesn't that tie in perfectly with Hydra and the whole thing we were talking about, Hydra being just a little more than what Nazis are, right? It's like, we're going to have
10% more, I would say.
10% more lens flare.
Yeah. That fits.
All right. Well, at the end of this scene, or at the end of this minute, we actually go into the barracks. This is where these prisoners that they're apparently using for work duty. This is kind of honestly like the mines in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where we are right here, where they all these people working hard as prisoners, and we see some prisoners that are going to be key to the story of Captain America as they are getting led into their, I guess their little cell. We get to see Gabe Jones, Jacques Dernier, James Montgomery Falsworth, and Timothy Dum Dum Dugan.
Dum Dum Dugan?
I don't think we're going to... I don't think, Pete, I think that we should save the official IMDb game introductions for them when they finally get a moment. And at this point, since we're just seeing them walking by, we'll hold off on that, but we will do Dum Dum Dugan tomorrow because he does actually have a little bit.
I think that's smart.
I think that's fair to say. And so, I don't know, I guess, is there anything else from this minute? We can save all the stuff with the prison for tomorrow.
Yeah, I just want to, because I don't think in my minutes I get to talk about Toby Jones again. We talked about Arnim Zola's humanity and what his relationship could be, but like, and you guys I think have talked about this in episodes past, but the Marvel casting, even no matter how small the roles are, having Toby Jones in here, he has that arrogance and that vulnerability, like, so subtly and so well. Like, putting award-winning character actors in these minor roles really helps elevate everything. And Toby Jones is so great.
Do you like what they did with the Zola character? Like the changes they made from the comics to here?
The hints I find fun. Like when we first meet him, right? His face is in the glass and it's like, oh no, he's a human. And then, in Winter Soldier, I guess like I want them to go full bore comic book where he is in the middle of a robot's belly, like running around. But yeah, it's fine. It was fine. And I would like to see him more, right? It's Marvel kills off their villains too quickly. And I would love more Zola.
Well, that's an interesting point. What do you think about Red Skull and Schmidt in the film? Do you like Hugo Weaving and how he played it?
I think Hugo Weaving is intimidating and he carries that, but he is fully gone, right? And sometimes I like villains with humanity, but sometimes it's fun to have that Snidely Whiplash, like burn it all. And he oozes that. And it would be nice to have seen him evolve through the movies, and maybe we could get Sin, his daughter, and like he's such a he has his own cast of characters in the comics. I guess because it's the 40s, two people are going to be in the ice? Hell yeah, man. Winter Soldier is too. Everybody gets trapped in the ice and wakes up in the 2000s. Let's do it. Like, it still felt like even though they were embracing the comic book silliness more than a lot of other movies were at this time, it still felt they were fighting it a little. And versus if it came out now, I think Red Skull would not have died necessarily. And we could see him again and again and again, and not just like in ghost vapor form later.
Because which villains have survived? Abomination and Loki, obviously. And then who's the next villain who survives?
I don't know. Is Mickey Rourke still around? Is Whiplash, or did Whiplash die in Iron Man 2?
No, I think
he died.
Yeah, he died.
But Sam Rockwell didn't die.
No, Sam Rockwell's
still around somewhere.
Yeah, we saw him in the one shot.
Yeah, I have a lot of hope that Rockwell will come back at some point.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That'd be so great.
Wasted in that.
Yeah.
I feel like most of their villains do die. I mean, Michael Keaton lives in Homecoming. So, I mean, it's periodic, but that is, I mean, I share that frustration. I always enjoyed it when a villain had the opportunity in the comics to kind of come back or escape or whatever it's going to be. And I do feel like they just have decided to just kill him. And it just, I don't know, it makes for less interesting opportunities.
Yeah, because them growing and learning and changing, they become a bigger threat, right? And like, and he's minor, but like Frank Grillo plays Crossbones. I forget what they call him in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Can you guys again? Can you tell that's my favorite one of all these movies? He's Crossbones for a minute, I think, in Civil War. Like he is. They build him to be this badass Hydra agent, and then he dies.
It's just like right at the beginning, yeah.
Let him be fully Crossbones, who I consider a part of like the Red Skull umbrella, right? Because he hangs out with Sin all the time in the comics, and that actor I think is wasted. Then, like, I love that. I just rewatched Purge Anarchy. I love that guy. He's just like a good brutal action movie dude.
Yeah, totally. I'm looking through this list of all of the Marvel villains, and so some of them are like the big giant, Dormammu, Doctor Strange, right? The Dweller in the Darkness, Shang-Chi, Aldrich Killian. I think he met his end and he blow up. Ronan the Accuser. So Justin Hammer's still around. Aisha from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We get more. Survived.
Because she becomes a villain by the end of it. She's definitely not like...
I don't even... This shows nothing, but Jan Rog from Captain Marvel, did he live at the end, or did she just beat him into the...
I think he did live.
And sent him... She put him in the rocket and sent him off, in the ship, and sent him off into...
Yeah. Because that's when he's like, you owe me this fight. You owe it to yourself. Yeah. And she goes, no. And like smacks him and then kicks rocks.
I mean, obviously they have, hundreds of villains to choose from their decades and decades of writing comics. But I do think there is something interesting when they're able to kind of allow those relationships to grow over time. And that's, I think, why, when you have Thanos and kind of the journey of that story kind of starting, I mean, I know it kind of starts in post-credit sequences and things like that, but you do get kind of an interesting development that's allowed to kind of blossom. And I think that you could do that more if they did that. So, well.
Or Zemo from Civil War to Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh, there's one. Yeah.
And even though he goes kind of Loki role, right? Of like, I'm a villain, but I'm on your side.
I'm a best friend. Yeah.
But again, that's because they're exploring, like, what can we do with this character to give it a little more more complexity. And yeah, I mean, it would be really interesting, like, if Stain was still around from the first one and, had been, just in prison this whole time, but was still like this millionaire or something, like the way that they could have played that in later stories. But
building an Ironmonger 2.0 with a box of scraps.
I wonder, though, what the ratio is, because they're churning through, as many villains. Like, how many villains do they get to churn through as a ratio of how many heroes they're churning through, right? Because all the movies have more heroes than villains. And so there's no way we can, we've got to get them off the table in many cases narratively, because we just have to introduce so many more. I mean, it's not like I don't understand the challenge of it, of keeping villains around. But of course, then you run into, building up this potentially great character and killing him in the first 10 minutes of the next movie.
Right. Or like Thunderbolts is going to come out, right? In a few years. And wouldn't it be nice to not be like, well, I know the 5 who are alive, so it's going to be them on the Thunderbolts.
Yeah. Right. Truth.
I think a lot of it probably, and this is a very cynical way of looking at it, but a lot of it probably boils down to marketing and toys and other avenues they can sell stuff. Because when you have Captain America, you can only sell so many Captain America toys because then everyone has it. And that goes back to kind of like the Batman thing. It's like, well, then you got to change his outfit every movie so that there's a different Batman. And so that's why it's like, well, we want a different villain because we need another bad guy. We need another thing that we can put in a box to sell to kids.
Mm-hmm.
When the truth is, I would watch Eric Killmonger go up against every single team in the Marvel Universe. Yes. I want more Michael B. Jordan. That's the only thing that matters.
Well, I think that's the one I'll argue. I think he had to die. Otherwise, he would just be the hero in the audience's mind of the entire Marvel universe. And they're like, we made him too powerful. Get him off the board.
Too good. All right. Well, let's put a cap in it for today. So Mike, tell everybody about your shows, where they can tune in.
Yeah, go over to wherever you get your podcasts. I prefer Overcast. Check out the Superhero Show where every week me and my 3 compatriots watch and review every single live-action TV show based on comic books. And if you're like, I know there's like 4 of them, there's more. There's more than you think, because sometimes we found out a show that was out for months was based on a comic book, because right now people are pitching comic books before they're even published and they become Netflix TV shows, and then we have to watch that. Or check out Movie of the Year. Every season is a different year, and then we build a giant bracket and make them fight each other till we find it's the tagline I say every week. We've had the best movie of that year. Real gave up.
You're doing great. Yeah.
All of it lives at popfilter.co.
Awesome. Well, all of that will be in the show notes. Check them out. We will be back tomorrow to discuss the next minute of the movie. So thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
And Pete, thank you.
Tomorrow, I might be 60% more Pete.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.